take a look at this cooler. Beautiful RGB fan. That's super quiet.
Meet the bequiet PROC 3 LX CPU air cooler. Special thanks to bequiet for sponsoring today's video, but as always, any opinion expressed in this video is strictly our own. That being said, if you're interested in this cooler or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Take a look at the retail box and packaging. Everything looks great. You can learn more about this particular cooler, see tech specs on the side, and even learn more about bequiet, the brand itself. Now let's go ahead, let's open this up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our product literature with instruction guides, full detailed installation and setup instructions for both Intel and AMD. We have a breakout right here of all the individual parts and components. Here's a look at your Intel instructions step by step. This supports the latest and greatest sockets from Intel, 1851 and 1700. Flipping it over to the back side, the Intel installation continues, followed by your AMD AM4 and AM5 socket installation right there. Again, step by step, detailed, thorough, with images showing you how to get that installed for both Intel and AMD, which is great to see. Next, we have our 2 fan clips, followed by 4 spacers, Intel kit, AMD kit, and we have our one included 120 millimeter ARGB fan. This fan is the Lightwings LX fan for those that are interested. You can see it from the back side right here. See it from the side. We have our bequiet logo and branding, our airflow arrows, bequiet, airflow arrows, you get the idea. And then we have our power cord right here with our RGB as well as our 4-pin PWM connection. Last but not least, let's take a look at the cooler itself. Bequiet's logo and branding up at the top. Let me give you the side profile. We can see it from all different sides and angles. Take a look at the bottom. We have a protective plastic cover. This does have thermal compound already applied. And we got our heat pipes right there. See the copper and then the black finish. Now let's go ahead and get this installed. The CPU we're going to be using in our test bench today is the Intel i9-13900K. So we grab the Intel kit here, and you follow a similar procedure for both Intel and AMD, but they are a little bit different. But the first thing we have to do is build our mounting back plate. So we have ours assembled right here for the LGA 1700 socket, which is what the CPU is. It's also configured for the 1851 socket from Intel, which is the latest and greatest, but it's very easy to configure this. What you do on the back is figure out if you're 1 or 2. So 1700 and 1851 is going to be in the 1 position. And if you look on here, it's clearly labeled 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, and then on the side we have this little lip or tooth in the bracket itself that then we line up our metal piece here in the 1 or 2 position. And then this side you take the little rubber washer and put it down and repeat that all 4 times. So clearly labeled. Next step is to go ahead and put this through the back side of our motherboard. We have 4 holes right here where this will line up. So it should look just like this, where we have all 4 poking out and through. Now it's time for the next step, where we're going to take these guys, which are clearly labeled in the up position, and we're going to put them through each one of the metal pieces sticking up. So it should look just like this. Next, we need to take the bracket piece right here. We're going to line it up on both sides. There's an arrow pointing towards the CPU, so make sure you have that pointed the correct way, and then it'll go 1 to 1 and 1 to 1 there, since that's how our bracket was configured for our particular socket. That all fits in. Now we take these pieces and we fasten them in place, 1 for each corner of the bracket. Now we can add our cooler. Remove the protective covering. We already have our pre-applied thermal paste, and then it'll just line up like you see right here. Those screw holes will attach to the threads coming up. So just gently place it and start tightening down each side. And keep tightening until you feel resistance. You won't be able to tighten it any further. Now we can add our fan. When mounting the fan, just make sure you're following the directional arrows for the airflow to get it lined up properly. And you can reposition these clips if you want to move the power cable a particular way. This should be fine for us right here though. We could just keep it like this. And then we just take our clips and it just snaps over. And in this case, with our RAM, no issues there at all. It's lined up just like so. And now we're ready to go.
All right, everything's installed, plugged in, and powered on. Take a look at this cooler. Beautiful RGB fan. That's super quiet. Listen in. It's not making any noise. Whisper quiet. There's a look at our connectors. CPU fan on the header. Same with the RGB on our motherboard. Both of those connected right there. It looks really nice. And now listen in to the max fan speed right here. So you can get a better feel for how loud it would be if you have that fan running at 100%.
We're left with one burning question that we have to cool. How does the bequiet PWM 3 LX stack up against the competition? Let's find out, and we'll be starting with cost. This will be the frame of reference that we'll look at all the other data through to see how it stacks up against the competition, to see that price to performance ratio. This makes things very clear starting off. We're 46% below the average cost of a CPU cooler that we've tested. So with that being said, shouldn't we expect to get 46% less performance? Well, let's find out. Starting off, we're looking at max TDP. This is measured in watts. We come in at a very respectable 190 TDP. That is below average, but it's not going to be 40-some% below average like we should be expecting. So very respectable for what this cooler is, and most importantly, what you're paying for it. Now we get this question all the time. Will this CPU cooler work with my CPU? So we've compiled a list of some of the latest and greatest CPUs from both Intel and AMD, so hopefully you can find your model on there or a similar model to use that as your guide for your thermal needs. One of the reasons that we see that 46% difference in cost comes down to the design and build of this particular model. We have 4 heat pipes, which is below average. That's going to mean we have less copper and materials, bringing that price down. But theoretically then, that would also bring down its cooling performance. So let's see if that holds true. Looking at our idle temps, we come in only 3 degrees Celsius above average, which is more than respectable. We creep a little higher at 65 watts, now we're at 4 degrees Celsius, but again, well within range. And same thing can be said at 95 watts, we're now at 5 degrees Celsius greater. And we hold steady at 5 degrees Celsius as we bump that up to 120 watts, but again, this isn't 46% less performance. Bumping it up to 170 watts, we come in 7 degrees Celsius above average, but again, still respectable and not that 46% decrease in performance. And then when we max out the CPU, we do hit that 100 degrees Celsius built-in threshold and protection for the CPU, not a big deal. And with it maxed out, looking at our max wattage, we come in at 283 watts, which is below the 318 average, but we're going to be hitting some throttling there with this particular cooler and the CPU that we used. Same story for max speed, we come in at 4.9 gigahertz compared to the average of 5.2. Moving along to noise, which I expect quiet results because it's in their name. It holds up true looking at our idle noise in decibels. The lower this value, the quieter it is. And starting off, we're 2 decibels below average at idle. When we have everything maxed out, we're also 2 decibels below average under max load with our fan spinning at 100%. All right, after looking at all the data, where does that leave us in regards to the bequiet PWM 3 LX? If you're looking for a quiet, capable, cost-effective cooler that has color with its RGB fans, look no further.